there. A lot of parents are very confused on how to track their children's progress at school, whether it's at primary, whether it's at secondary, whether it's Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4, and even at A-levels. We'd like to give you a little bit of advice on the type of questions that you can ask so you can fully understand how your child is doing at school. I'm Katie Craze.
And I'm Lorraine Yarderberg. We work for JK Educate. Katie, how do we track children's progress in schools?
Well, the first thing that we have to understand is how are school tracking our children's progress? What unit of measurement are they using, and are we familiar with it? I meet lots of parents that say to me, I wasn't born in this country, I was never educated in the UK system, so I'm a little bit confused about it. I always say to them, well, I was, and it's changed. Even if you have been in this country all along, the way that the exams are taken, the way that the progress of a child is tested is very different to how it was when we were children.
Yes.
So it's different for everybody, and it's important to know what is happening. The other thing to note is it's always changing. No matter what government is in power, they do tend to change the way that the systems work in schools.
Yes.
Previously, it was very common to track children's progress using national curriculum levels. Now we're not doing that. I think the most common way to track children's progress is using age standardized scoring, and that's something that's used in many schools. That's very accurate insofar as it judges against the national average, where 100 is the figure that is given for average, and the average range is between 85 and 115. But of course, all schools do it in their own ways. Some will give a grade, and they'll say the child got an A, or got a B, or got a C. My problem with that is it's not very objective. In fact, it's extremely subjective, because a B in one school might mean something very different to a B in another school. Sometimes parents get results. My child got 50% in a test. Again, that's not objective enough, because if we find that 50% was the highest score out of the whole year group, that's a really good score. But if we find it was the lowest, then it has a different meaning. So age standardized are very good because it pitches you against your competitors, those that are your age, your child's age, doing the same thing. The other useful measure is using terminology like significantly above national expectation, in line with, and below. Again, that will put your child's scores in context, because the question you need to ask is, how are they doing compared to others nationally?
And who do you ask, Katie?
Who do you ask? You should absolutely ask your class teacher in the first instance. They're the people to ask, but not at parents' evening.
I was going to say, when do you ask that question? I mean, how do you do it? Do you make an appointment at school?
When you start at a new year, you tend to have a meet the teacher evening. You then have, usually in the first term and then in the second term, a parents' evening. They're very nice, quick opportunities to touch base with the class teacher, but they're not good opportunities to have in-depth conversation with them.
No.
It's usually 5 minutes, it's very pressurised for the teachers as well as for the parents, and it's very rushed. I would always recommend that you arrange an opportunity to meet with the class teacher either before school or after school. Pre-arrange it so it's not on the spot. And if you are able to bring your partner to that meeting as well, I always think that looks better too. And
can I just ask you, what questions would you ask?
The question you would ask is, how are they doing? And what you don't want to hear is, they're learning fractions. You don't want to hear they really enjoyed their trip to the History Museum. You don't want to hear about how great they were in their sharing assembly, because all of that you'll know anyway. What you need to know is whatever learning they're doing in the reading, in the writing, in the maths, or in the foundation subjects, how are they doing compared to others nationally? Because that will then allow you to understand how academic your child is. Don't compare them against others in their class. That's not really relevant.
No, it's not. No. So that question is very simple. How is my child doing compared to others nationally?
Now, if you don't get the answer you're looking for, you're very welcome then to speak to the head of year. You can speak to the deputy head. You can make an appointment to see the head. But Lorraine and I would like to think that you will get that information from school. Sadly, often you don't. And that's why many people come to us for advice, because they don't know how their child is doing at school. So in worst case scenarios, you can go to outside companies, educational consultants for that information. But we would always advise that you go and speak to your school in the first instance. So we've been looking at how, as a parent, you can track your child's progress at school. What are the questions to ask? What are the units of measurement that's being used in schools? I hope that you found this talk helpful.